And now it's Deborah Kobylt Live.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us, everybody, today on Deborah Kobylt Live. Fascinating guest joining us today, Irene Tsu. Thanks for being here, Irene.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Gosh, how do I give someone like you an introduction? First off, you're here to talk about your book,
Right.
a watercolor dream: the many lives of Irene Tsu. And let me promise you, she's had many lives that we'll be talking about. Actually, you opened the door for a lot of Asian American actresses. You have worked with everyone from Elvis, Bette Midler, Jeff Bridges, John Wayne. Is that right? Um, and you've worked on shows CSI, Cold Case, Wonder Woman, Hawaii Five-O. I mean, there's so many. So we're
So
going to
many.
get into that. But you've also had relationships with some of Hollywood's true elite. Namely, I'll let you tell us.
I the only one who is really Sinatra. I met him when my commercial was on like 40 times a day, so I didn't know that he kind of knew me already because when I met him, I was in Florida shooting Miami, shooting another of that commercial because it was Standard Oil of America, huge. So I was there doing a campaign called Chevron Island. So literally, they have this whole, you know how commercials always have a sound to it, right? So the minute the sound comes up, then I'm dancing on top of the gas pump. I mean, back then. But so I was told to give him a call. My manager says, why don't you give Aaron Rosenberg a call, the guy that produced Caprice with Doris Day. So he said, it doesn't hurt to say hello and go and have lunch with him. So that was what happened. He called me, or I called him, or whatever. Had lunch, and it was at the Fontainebleau. I think it's still there, some huge hotel.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so I went there and I thought I was just going to have lunch with, Aaron Rosenberg. But little did I know there was a whole table full of people, like 8 or 9 people there, and I go, you know, I was just really surprised. And then the only seat that was left open. So I sat down. Thank you, nice to meet you, or whatever it was, Sinatra, right there. So I didn't, really want to, be staring. You know what I'm saying? It's like what do I do? What do I say? So I just, quickly ordered the food, and I was busy with my food most of the time, just, stare down because I didn't want to look at it. So I thought that was that. I thought it was a good story. Maybe I can tell my girlfriends. Oh, guess who I had lunch with? Stuff like that. Well, that didn't. Yeah.
I noticed you told me because we did a little talk on the phone. You
Yes.
said the one thing that you noticed immediately when you sat down was what?
His blue eyes. He's got these amazing, piercing blue eyes, and he
Yeah.
was much older then, and I mean, he's definitely a very attractive man. You know what I'm saying? At whatever age, and very intense. He exudes this energy about him that you go, okay, whatever. So we met again, back to LA, in a private club, and this time he was seemed a little more relaxed because he's like a very wound up kind of person. Okay, he's a chronic insomniac. That's why too, And so I then was wondering why this line to the ladies' room was like out of sight, and I go, oh my god, okay, I've got to go, I got to go. So I said to my friend, I'm going to go. Coming out, I see why the ladies' room line was like out of, here at the right hand booth was Sinatra with some of his croonies. And this one guy I worked with in TV. He had his own TV series. And then I said, hi, Irene, come sit with us. So I scooted in. And then Sinatra was less, intense, and he was, kind of relaxed, I would say. I don't think guys ever relaxed. But so that's how we met the second time. And then I thought, well, that's nice. I met him 2 times now. That didn't stop. The very next day, I got a call from this guy who used to be an actor and had a huge famous restaurant called Nikki Blair's or something like that. I mean, way back then. So I he said, well, I've got a table for you. I arranged his favorite table for him and everything. He's going to pick you up at 7:30. I had no idea who he was talking about. I just Who? What? He's a friend. Francis. I was just so nervous. I said, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yeah, be very punctual because he's a very punctual guy. 7:30 reservation is going to pick you up at 7."
Wow.
I then went into a total just, well, this is not just a regular dinner date. I mean, dinner date, we like to kind of, make ourselves, look nice and stuff like that. And I just went into a wardrobe crisis. Just don't know what to wear.
And you certainly can't show up in your sweats for Frank Sinatra the way we are on our podcast, right?
That's right.
I mean, you gotta really step it up if you're on a date with Frank Sinatra. Also, this is at a time as he was divorcing Mia Farrow, correct?
Right.
So he was sort of a free man at the time too. So you guys went to dinner, you had a nice time, and then what happened?
No, we didn't go to dinner. So the phone
You didn't go to dinner.
No, the phone rang. Like exactly like 5 minutes to 7, and I'm going, "Oh my God, it's like, what is this?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "Baby." I don't even know him. He calls me baby. And he said, "I don't know if you heard about it, but my divorce from Mia Farrow is all over the news, and I can't go home because the paparazzis are all over the place. So I'm heading out to the desert. Would you come down to the desert? And I want you to come down. I want you to come down to the desert." And he's going to ask a question. "I want you to come down to the desert this weekend." I mean, like, okay, okay. I didn't even know anybody who had a car phone at that time. So, so I then was like really relieved. Oh my gosh, I didn't have to go to dinner, kick off my shoes, and ripped off my clothes and just fell down backwards in my bed and go, "Oh, I'm so glad I ordered a pizza, whatever I'm going to do." Much better, that's how I started. And then
yeah,
I went.
And you had go ahead. I'm sorry. So you went to the desert. Tell me very briefly. So you went to the desert to meet him. I know that you went on his plane. Did you meet that night to go on the plane, or how did that work?
Well, yeah, he came to pick me up himself when the plane landed. Of course, it's his plane. So I was very surprised. I thought he was going to send a driver or whatever happened. So I go, "Oh, okay." He was very nice. Opened the door. That whole old school, gentleman type thing. That I went there, and we never parted since that first date because he was showing me the house, and there was not a pretentious house, not like Walter Endenburg or something. It was like kind of California ranch, but it's got a lot of different cottages that he built for the Kennedys. And and he says, "Oh, and this is your room." And he said, "Mia had it painted pink, but you can paint it any color you want." And I'm going,
okay, hold on. So you're taking a plane for the first time with Frank Sinatra to his place in Palm Springs.
Right.
You go into his home, which is lovely, a little modest considering it's Frank Sinatra, and he takes you to your room and he says, "This was Mia's room, but now it's your room." Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I can paint it any color I want.
Is that correct? No, but I mean, what I'm saying is that was your first date with him. Like usually on a first date, maybe he'll go to lunch or dinner, and he'll take you home or fly you home on a plane, but not you. Because here, yes. Wow. So how many years were you with? How many years were you with him?
Over 2 years. Over 2 years, but one day that lasted over 2 years. So, I mean, you can't really be dating other people if you're dating, Sinatra. So people like kind of backed away from me. My friends said, "Never see you anymore. Never, even hear from you. What is going on?" And I'm going like, I'm like, dating someone or something like that. And so that's how it was. And we spend a lot of time in the desert. Of course, that's where he wants to. Or we'll come into town. Or go to the desert. There's restaurants there in Palm Springs. And it's the old Palm Springs. It's not like whatever they have now, Rachel Mirage, all those places. It's the old Palm Springs.
Right. The old Palm Springs is so it's actually lovely. They've tried to sort of keep it in that genre, right? But what did you like to do there? What did he like to do in Palm Springs when you were together? Did you entertain with friends? Was it just the two of you relaxing? What did you do?
Well, we did a little bit of each, but he does like to fly people in for big dinner parties. So I met just about everybody there. And yeah, so they were all famous and rich or whatever it is, or both, So met a
Wait a
lot.
minute, Irene. You can't get away with not name dropping. Tell me some of the folks that come on, you tell me some of the folks that he would fly in and you would
Well,
enjoy dinner with.
yeah, people like Gregory Peck, Veronique, his wife, Kirk Douglas, and Douglas, the old, big, huge movie stars. And interestingly, Herb Alpert. You remember
Oh,
Herb
wow.
Alpert? You know,
Yeah, of course.
yeah, so Herb Alpert and I somehow got signed up to horseback ride. And I really don't horseback ride that much, you know. God damn it, he took off with the horse and my horse followed him. And I was like hanging on like Pocahontas. I'm like, oh my God, this is not happening. So a lot of incidents like that, and also met, major publisher, Bennett Cerf, was it Random House or something like that. And he was my dinner partner all the time. Because he asked me
Hmm.
a very interesting question the first time that we sat down to dinner, and I didn't know who it was or whatever. And he said, "Well, Irene, now you're with the famous and rich. How are you going to act? How are you going to be?" And it was a daunting kind of question. I'm going, "Wow," I smile when in doubt. I smile. I guess I'll just have to be myself, Mr. Surf, Mr. Brennan or whatever. So he liked that answer a lot. He says, "My gosh, that's amazing. I want this girl to be next to me every single dinner." Frank,
Oh,
is
I
this
love it. It
uh,
really sounds like an old school sort of Hollywood time,
it
It's just
really
very,
is. Yeah,
the kind of stuff we would read about and envision that it would be like, just sort of the rich and famous hanging out only with the rich and famous, right?
right, right.
Um, very interesting. So let's circle back a little bit because Irene, you're also responsible, honestly, for opening doors for many Asian American actresses because you were one of the first on the scene here in Hollywood. Briefly, your background, right? You're from China. You came here as a little girl,
Yeah.
and your first. Could you tell me very briefly about that? What you remember of it, or what your family told you?
Yeah, well, I left China when I was 3 years old, so I don't remember China because it turned communist.
Right.
So we had no choice. So I lived in Hong Kong during the elementary school years,
Hmm.
and so I remember a lot about Hong Kong then. It was it's a very exotic place, or it was a very exotic place. What's happened now, it's whatever.
Different.
Yeah. So it was a very, very exotic place, and it was a British Crown colony. I mean, we'd have to pledge allegiance to the Queen. Okay.
Hmm.
And I think I'm around the same age as Prince Charles. Remember him, stuff like that. And so memories of Hong Kong in those days were great. Coming to America was like totally, I don't know. We took a ship, to come
Right.
to Hong Kong, ocean line or whatever. And that was a treat for a 12-year-old, 11, about to be 12-year-old. It was mesmerizing. Imagine those ocean liners. I mean, they had everything there, several pools, blah, blah, And so that was an adventure for me, total adventure. Not
Right.
like,
Your dad was here in the United States at the time, and he sent for your mom and you, right? And your sister?
no, he always
No.
lived one country apart. We never even lived
Uh,
with him. Yeah, he
oh,
got maybe another family or something, which in those days, I don't know. Or it was maybe acceptable. I don't know. But
but he
I
took care of you. He took care of you.
yes, he graduated from university here. He got his master's degree in the University of Illinois in Champaign, Illinois. So he's a very educated man. So he always said, you follow what your money is, sort of thing. I
Hmm.
mean, with what's happening now, I mean, people are all invested everywhere. I mean, people are invested here.
Yeah. So when you came here, you first landed, I think, on the West Coast, and you made your way, of course, to New York,
Right.
where you were dancing and you were on Broadway. Correct? Could you tell us briefly a little bit
Not
about your
really. I
work
got
there?
my first job, maybe like 14 years old or something, standing in line for a burger place with my friends from school, and this guy all of a sudden turns around and looks at me and says, "Do you speak Tahitian?" I mean, I don't know what Tahitian sounds like. He says, "Well, I want you to go to this interview. They're looking for a Tahitian Isle salad dressing by Wishbone. Okay. So I'm like, so he gives me his card and I pass it around. He said, well, he's like a real agent. He's like on Madison Avenue. I said, are you kidding me? So again, all of us piled in the subway and went down there and met him in his office. And he sends me to this audition for the salad dressing. So I've never been on an audition before, so I took the subway down there, and they had all these whatever it is. So I got the part. Short, long story short, I got the part and went on to my first gig. I don't even know if I was ever paid or anything because my mom would have to sign something for me. Old days, different. So
It was
uh,
very different, yeah. So
yeah,
you got the part. You were in a salad dressing commercial,
yeah,
and then what really got you notoriety was the Standard Oil commercial that you did,
right,
right, in
yeah,
1969 and 1970. That was a big deal, right?
big deal, yeah.
Yeah.
So, commercials are still running all the time. I mean, my God, I, watched a movie last time. There was so much commercials that, I'm just wondering, like, what are they selling, whatever. Um,
Right.
you know, so that was very, very big at the time, and I was really grateful, and then I just worked nonstop, from one little job to another job. The first one was being a dancer in the Flower Drum song, rooming with, the band star, Nancy Kwan, and rooming with her was a trip, because I got limo to the studio every morning and then came back to the house. Oh, this is the way to go. How
Wait,
else?
you said to the studio, are we now in Hollywood? So you went from, right?
Yeah, we're
Did
in
you jump?
Hollywood.
Okay, now, so we went from New York to Hollywood. So,
Thank you, thank you. I'm like, I know.
well, you have such a distinguished career. I mean, you've done so much, whether it's New York and Hollywood, it's incredible. So you made your way to Hollywood. You
Yeah,
were, what was one of the first shows that you were in? Because you were in over 80 television and films
yeah,
and very well-known television series.
yeah,
And you were really one of the first Asian Americans, right, to have regular parts in so many TV series, correct?
right. And
Yeah,
it's really parts that were not really so-called written for Asians or Chinese, specific.
right.
Now it's over, of course, diversity and everything. Um, so at that time, mainly I got the parts because the director liked me. I was sent in to see the director, and they go, they want you for this part, so it became Asian, whatever. Uh,
Right.
so, yeah, but all those huge TV shows I did in those days, I was Spying Man from Uncle, whatever, blah, 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 Voice of the Bottom of the Sea. I think they're showing it all the time now on TV because there's no new product.
Do you get residual checks from some of those older shows?
Yeah,
Did they
it's
even?
52
Oh,
cents
I
sometimes.
know. No, I know. I was in a film, that Nightmare on Elm Street series,
Oh my
and
God, yeah.
I still get checks from those films, and they're so tiny. Once I got an $11 check, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm definitely taking this to the bank. But some of them are like 49 cents. I'm like, oh, come on, you
Yeah.
know. But it's something. But I guess if you add up all the shows you've been in, Man from Uncle, um, do you have a favorite when you think back at doing all those shows? And then I want to sort of talk about working with Elvis, because I know we have a great shot with you and Elvis. Um,
Yeah, I really liked well, Elvis is special. I mean, there's only one of Elvis. Nobody like that band that look like him or sound like him. Do we have anybody that look like Elvis now? No, So, my first Screen Actors Guild show, I would say, uh, again, it was like a crossover show. I mean, the director of Flower Drum Song, by the way, is a huge director, and he did the Robe and all of these, Ben Hur probably, and
oh,
yeah, he approached me on the set of Flower Drum Song after I
hmm
thought I was going to be fired because I've never been in a movie before. So he said, okay, three girls. Okay, I want you, and step down the steps and start your first line of the song. Look anywhere you want to, right or left, but not into the camera. Okay, and I stepped down and I stared right into the camera. And I never been on film before. I was only in still pictures where photographers go, okay, look this way, chin down, whatever they do. And so I went, oh my God. I did it like 3 or 4 times, totally blew it. And then I thought, I am absolutely so fired. But instead, he approached me one day. He said, I'm doing the next film with Jimmy, and I want you to come to my office and pick up a script. And then
Jimmy who?
Exactly. That's what I said to everybody. I said, Jimmy who? Jimmy who? Jimmy, they said, you know, Jimmy Stewart. And
Wow.
He's huge at the time. I mean, he is incredible. So, and I went, oh my God, so I just went into a whole nervous state. And not only that, it was completely, the dialogue was in French. And I did have like, high school French or, junior high French. And being, trained in ballet, French is like, the language of ballet, all the positions and everything are in French. And so I go, oh my God. He said, oh, don't worry about it. We'll have the dialogue coach, fix that and write it all up. So that was my first film.
Wow. So when you worked with Elvis, what was that like? What was your role? And tell me what he was like. You were describing him to me a little bit. Tell me.
Well, like I said, there's nobody, that's like Elvis, and he died at 42, but when I met him was maybe like, he was like 35 or whatever, and he was just beautiful. He was just so beautiful. I mean, I went to screen test and I got the part, and I was very nervous because the first day, on set, just went to have a little lunch or maybe just to meet everybody else or something. And then it was on location in Hawaii at the Polynesian Culture Center, which is a little trip. I think it's still there,
Right.
In Oahu, on the whatever leeward side. So then he says to me, I mean, I was saying, oh my God, my air conditioning doesn't work in my trailer. It's hot here. I'm melting. I just want to lay down, rest a little bit. So I then walked over to, I thought the next hut or something, huge thatch roof hut. So I was walking a few steps, we were looking down because, you want to step in pebbles or something, so then I felt a hand that came like 10 inches from me. Stop, young lady, don't come any further, stop. And I said, I'm sorry, my air conditioning doesn't work, it's more, I should lay down for a bit. And he said, I have to check with Elvis. And I'm going, holy this is not happening, right? So then he came right back and he said, fine, follow me. So I followed him and they let me lie down in, I think, a massage table or something. So then, he throws a towel over me because I got the salon on or whatever. So I just like dozed off. I closed my eyes, and when I opened my eyes, I saw Elvis's face like 12 inches from me. And I'm going, oh, I'm so sorry.
You were on the massage table and you open your eyes and there's Elvis. What
Yeah.
was he, your masseuse? Was he your masseuse or what? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he was putting a compress on my head, on my forehead.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was so close that immediately I'm very sensitive to smells, So I smelled the Johnson's baby powder, which has got its distinct smell to it, okay? And milk,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking like, wow, I just thought, wow, I'm going to remember this, So this is how it started. I met him.
Wow. And you described him as very religious, right? He really liked to practice his religion. He was into martial arts. When you look back at your career, when you look back at working with Elvis, having an intimate relationship for over 2 years with Frank Sinatra, and all that you enjoyed with Frank and his friends in Palm Springs, and working with the likes of Bette Midler and Jeff Bridges, when you think about all the work and the people you've been with, what stands out the most to you?
Wow, it's hard to say. I really enjoy just about every shoot, that I've been on. Some are difficult, it's physically difficult. You're an actress, I mean, you're like do this. I hate eating scenes, like what I'm saying, you gotta match the last cut. Did I have my hand this way or that way? No, you have the cup hold this way, okay? Down a little
But
bit.
I mean in terms of a person. in terms of who stood out to you the most, because you have quite a collection of work and you've worked with an enormously um, large selection of successful Hollywood people. Is there something that stands out to you, like when you look back at your work, a person or a film that really stands out?
Well, I remember a few shows I was in. I like doing the Wild Wild West. It,
Ah,
it was a great part, and he's a really good looking guy, that Robert Conrad or something, Bob Conrad, right? And sometimes he did all his stunts, and really he's not in good shape right now. And people like just certain locations and actors I work with who are very giving. I will always remember like Karen Black in Airport 75, and they just played it again. And then I got to work with these huge, uh, designers,
right,
award-winning designers. At the time I didn't even think about it, but yes, it was very exciting. And
right.
yeah.
Because you were also in the fashion industry as well. I mean, your career just spans everywhere. Now, author, of course. Um, but you're not done. You're young, and you said to me the one thing that you still would love to do would be what?
Painting,
You want to
watercolor.
paint.
Yes, I want to paint. I
And I love that because that's the title of your book, A Watercolor Dream.
Yes, watercolor.
Irene, are you painting now?
Well, I had it set up, at, at my small desk, which doesn't really work because the next work I want to do is metallic with watercolor. It's
Yeah,
all in my head, metallic with watercolor. But the metallic has fumes. I can't be, I may have to take the whole thing out to my patio because
right,
you got to have the right light when you're painting, of course. And then you really have to have the space because sometimes you want to be doing a couple of canvases at the same time. It's just like almost like a series, or at least that's what I want to do. Because this
right,
one wants to go that way, and then this one, well, I force it to go that way if it wants to go this way, whatever.
right. Exactly. Well, I don't know. In reading this book, I'm not even sure what stands out to me the most, except that what a life you have led and continue to lead. I know that you live near Beverly Hills, and when it's not COVID, you enjoy lunching with your friends. In which case, one of these days we're going to go because
Okay, okay.
instead of an abbreviated time in a podcast, I'd love to sit with you for hours and hours because there's so much. Well, there's such great detail in this book. That's why I want everybody to please pick it up. It's available on Amazon, right? The Many Lives
Right.
of Irene Tsu.
Yes, Amazon.
And what I love is, first of all, you're stunning now, but especially stunning as a very young girl, like many of us were. And I love all the photos and all of the newspaper clippings. There's just so much in here. You've included it all. It's a real who's who in
Well,
Hollywood,
they asked for it. The publisher asked for it, so
but it's a real who's who. I mean, you've got a lot of everything. But also, what impressed me was how you really changed a lot for Asian American women in the business. So, thank you for that. I'm sure there are many women who thank you for that, right?
Well, I'm pleased. I didn't know it at the time, but it seems
Right.
like, yeah, when you're
You
doing
didn't
something.
know you didn't know you were a trailblazer, but you are, right? Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, Irene, because there's just so much that we could talk about. But I would say pick up her book because it's fascinating. Are you doing any reads at all, like on Zoom or anything like that?
No, I haven't. I just am doing the interview shows, and there's a huge Chinese community, Chinatown area.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just recently was up there in San Francisco, and they had this huge Grand Avenue. I learned a lot about it because it was built in 1906. I didn't,
Right.
and because I mean, those were Chinese that were generations here. They came here, whatever, from the railroads or something.
Right.
But we are like new immigrants, so I couldn't even understand what dialect they're speaking. They were going
Right.
to their native dialect from that particular village, or two villages. There was a
Mm.
famine, I think, in China or something, and people came here for work to feed themselves. So it was very interesting for me because I'm from Shanghai, which is like the Paris of the East, and I don't
Right.
understand their dialect you know, or it's like being from, New York or something.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, Irene, thank you so much. It was
Thank
delightful to
you.
spend a little time with you and just to get to know you a little bit and your relationships and your incredible body of work. Again, over 80 films. You also do voiceover work. You do it all. So everybody, please pick up her book, A Watercolor Dream, The Many Lives of Irene Tsu. I
I'm still
enjoyed it very,
working.
very. Yeah, and you're still working. She keeps
I
going.
don't.
You just, right? Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, Over the Moon. I did the voiceover. I think winning the whatever awards they're giving out now. Over the Moon. It's an animation film by Glenn Keane. He's so famous. He did Little Mermaid, Pocahontas, Beauty and the Beast, all of those. So it was really a pleasure working with him. I also did a TV series for Universal and Netflix, and it's called Away, starring Hilary Swank. And I play, it was about all international astronauts that went to Mars on a 3-year journey. So I played the mother to one of the astronauts. And
Oh,
yeah, I had to speak Chinese, but in Beijing dialect. It's very
ah,
different. Yeah, you know that they insisted on it because
oh,
it's,
wow.
the financing is coming out of, you know, China or somewhere.
Right. No, I understand. And where can we find that? How can we find that?
Well, it's on TV. I've seen it, but I mean, it was just one show that I did, and we finished it. They were very lucky. They wrapped like Christmas Eve, the day before Christmas Eve in Vancouver. So I was up there, and I thought I'll stay a couple more days or something, but no, it rained the whole time. I didn't realize that Vancouver.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, nonstop raining, and that was maybe it was December.
well, I'm glad you finished it. And I'll tell, people can look that up as well. So I'm glad you're continuing to work and to interest us with your book. And I look forward to COVID finally, subsiding so you and I could meet for a little lunch and keep
Oh my,
going. So thank
thank
you so
you.
much for taking the time. I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for tuning into Deborah Kobylt Live. Please look up her book, look up her great body of work, Irene Tsu, The Many Lives of Irene Tsu. It's a beautiful book, lots of great photos and lots of great information about old time Hollywood. Not that you're so old, but you worked with some of the great people. Plus what it's like to be in a relationship with Frank Sinatra. You can't beat that. So thank you, everybody. Right? Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And you can find us everywhere: YouTube, Facebook, IGTV, and then anywhere that you get your audio podcasts. This is Deborah Kobylt on Deborah Kobylt Live, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you.